What's going on, Ma and Pops? What's going on, you guys? Welcome you guys to a Tuesday watch party here on the watch list. Glad you guys could be here with us. As I chatted for a few of you guys in the chat before we jumped in, I apologize. I apologize. We already missed the best damn day of the week. It's just how these things happen sometimes, and it sucks. But still, I hope you guys enjoyed your long weekend. For those of you that were able to enjoy a long weekend, every time I see these 3-day weekends from federal holidays, I realize so many people still have to work on that Monday. Generally, most of the time it's me too, but I, I I made sure I escaped on a Monday this particular time. I did have a good time though. Hope you guys did as well. I was going to post my activities from the weekend. I was still getting over that cold that I had on Friday, which forced me to forget to tell you guys I wasn't going to be here because I wasn't thinking clearly. But it was in the house. It was chilling. It was a bunch of nothing. A bit of car operations I was going through. I'm a surgeon with automotives and old 350 Chevy engines is what I was working on. So any mechanics out there, shoot me some of the work you guys been doing. I mean, my Corvette's been sitting in the garage for a couple of years now with nothing being done. So I got something done this weekend. Just want to put it that way. Anyways, glad you guys are here. If you're enjoying what we're doing, we do it every day at noon Eastern. Like, subscribe, go ahead and share this stream. We're going to put these up later on the channel as well in case you missed some of the stories. All you nerds that are here early never miss the stories. So maybe you guys can go ahead and continue to be the class, the teachers' pets, and reveal people and let people know what it is that we've been talking about as we jump back in. I mean, what else is the chat for, bro? I am feeling a little bit better. Thank you guys for the well wishes on the sickness. A slight sniffle still left, but I'll tell you what. I'm gonna tell you this. Hold on, let me tell you this. That was a loud popping sound. Let me tell you this. I think this is what's keeping me going. This is why I get over sicknesses in 3 days. Another Nas energy drink. I know you guys are telling me I shouldn't drink it. Good thing my mother's not here. All right, let's get started, you guys. Lots happened over the weekend. I'm not sure why I wasted the first 2 minutes there talking about me. There's lots that went on. There was lots of speculation. There was lots of concern. There was lots of worry, but there was even more potential celebration. I tried not to follow this story to the degree that it was going because, again, I was trying to detach a little bit for the weekend. But people were speculating. It all started on Friday, a few days after the last time anyone had seen Donald Trump speaking in front of a camera. But you know what? I saw this morning. This just popped up, and I think this drives the whole thing as things got a little weirder. Let's go.
Got another one? Let me see. Yeah, let's say in that little outhouse on the end. Oh, somebody there, right? Right now, right? Oh, there you go. You got it? You zoomed in? I guess that's one way to clean out. This is crazy, man. I know we gonna get a whole TV show. Can you make out what they're throwing away? This could definitely make Washingtonian proud. This could definitely make it.
Not sure if you guys saw that, but there was apparently a party going on. Maybe it was a Labor Day weekend party across the street from the White House. I'm going to continue to show you guys this video of things potentially being tossed out of the White House upper top story window there. This was reported by someone and sent to another news outlet, which then quickly spread all over the place. Just yesterday, if you can see that window, the second one from the left at the end of that one front, three different things. Apparently, 2 to 3 things got tossed out of that window: some black bags, a rolled up white poster board or sheet or something really large. It took that whole time for all those things to get tossed out, but people were wondering, what the hell's going on, bro? This is some weird stuff. I mean, it's the kind of thing that I guess you could expect from this administration, who continues to do weird things and potentially discarding things, but why in such a random fashion where everyone can potentially see it? It kind of capped off a weekend, and honestly, the end of the week where people speculated what was going on with Donald Trump and his health, because nobody had seen nor heard from the dude. And the guy definitely likes to be seen and heard because he's an egomaniac, psychopath, fascist leader. So this is where some of those questions were asked. It made its way all the way to CNN, because I did notice many larger outlets didn't really want to talk about it, but I guess they finally had to.
All right, I have to ask you, because I've heard from way too many Democratic friends over the weekend about what the president was doing all weekend. And I think he spent a part of the Labor Day weekend golfing at his golf club in Virginia. But there's also like this social media burst of like, is he healthy? What's actually happening? What color is his hat? What's going on here?
I don't know. I think everyone would like to know. I think that it's really disconcerting. The president has been very vocal with press all the time. I think in August, he spent 26 days doing public events or talking to press. So to go down for 6 days and just have a slew of true social posts that are very chaotic and people can't follow all of them, it's very concerning. And I think that it raises questions. The president could just be taking a few days down in August, which is normal for presidents to do. Or there could be actually something wrong. The problem is we don't know, and they're not being transparent about it.
All right, I have to.
A continued lack of transparency. See, that Democratic strategist was then pointing out some of the oddities that were going on. We haven't seen or heard from the guy. This is right after he had that cabinet meeting where everyone kissed his ass extensively for the last time, potentially. And then he went off somewhere and disappeared for a few days. Didn't say much, but there were some Truth Social posts, maybe some reposts from things, some declarations made, and people were speculating. It was all over the place. Is he dead? Is he sick? What happened? I think I see you guys still speculating now. Is it some kind of health issue? Is he, yes, still around, but then not his same annoying self? All that was swirling. So, of course, one of the president's kids had to voice his displeasure with this whole thing. It was Eric Trump. So he then pointed out I think it was on Sunday, he said, the radical left is so sick and twisted. That linking also is a repost to an article where it said, President Trump's response to the rumors that he passed away: never felt better in my life. I'm not sure if you guys could look into that further. It was written that he said he never felt better in his life. We still haven't seen his face, heard his voice. As of right now, it could potentially happen and going on right now. As I'm saying this, Trump could be speaking in front of press and everything is basically normal. He just took a weekend of golfing. But I want to focus a little bit more on what Eric Trump said, how twisted and sick the left are, because they're speculating that my dad is dead. Who does such a thing? Why would anybody in a political party, in any leadership, and people of the United States of American citizens that have any kind of couth and any kind of connection to our country, why would they do such a thing? Why?
We saw the president repost another baseless conspiracy theory on Truth Social. This time, it was about former President Biden. And normally, we may not want to share such outlandish misinformation with our viewers.
The president reposted an online post without context, by the way. He didn't add any commentary to it. But the person that he reposted said that former President Biden had been executed and that he was actually replaced with clones and robots that were doing the job for him. Again, this is, of course, completely unfounded. President Biden has also been clear, not only is he dealing with sort of the challenges of being out of office, but there's also this idea that the president is also dealing with prostate cancer right now and going through treatment for that. So it's really not only a baseless claim, but also a claim that it's attacking someone who is going through a real health crisis. We don't know why the President Trump reposted this. The White House is declining to comment.
We already know that's the latest in the round of this administration, these MAGA party that has all the hypocrisy that they can handle. Eric Trump is upset that people are speculating his father's dead. That NBC News report was from June, not June of forever ago, June of 2025, where the current president was speculating that the former president that died in 2020 and there's been clones and robots made of him. Yes, it's absolutely ridiculous and stupid, but it's the kind of stuff that then when people go, this is ridiculous. Why would a president say and do such a thing? This is stupid stuff and is unbecoming of a president. Then, of course, the MAGA party goes, you guys are just all obsessed. It's Trump derangement syndrome. He likes to have fun. Okay, well, a bunch of leftists had fun all weekend speculating about whether or not your dad is dead. So how about that? We know the pearl clutching has nothing to do with reality. But the defense of all this continued over the weekend. This was then on Saturday. Reagan Reese, she's a correspondent, a reporter for the Daily Caller, and she was sick of all the speculation too. So she posted this. This again was on Saturday, August 30th. She says, I wake up to see people freaking out that Trump's sick or dead or something because he hasn't been seen in a few days. I was with the president yesterday afternoon. I interviewed him for an hour. More details on our conversation to come today and through the weekend. We talked about everything. He was lively and chatty. It's a great interview. That was on Saturday. Reagan Reese said more details are going to come out from our interview over the weekend. It's Tuesday now. I looked for some more details over the weekend, but I did see something that was on Monday, the holiday weekend. That same Reagan Reese took to her Twitter to also announce this as well.
Hey guys, my hour-long interview in the Oval Office with President Trump, the full transcript is now live on the Daily Caller website. We thought the most honest and transparent thing to do was just to post the full conversation so you guys can read it, make your own opinions, pick out what's important to you. You can find that on the Daily Caller website. It's also in my bio. Hope you guys enjoy and happy Labor Day. Hey guys.
She posted an interview. We get to see him talk, as vibrant and chatty and lively as he could ever be, according to that Daily Caller reporter. Of course, we know Daily Caller is one of the water carriers for the administration. So here's the links that she put up to that interview where he's lively and vibrant. It says exclusive, full transcript. Daily Caller interviews President Donald Trump. Here, I scrolled down to see if there's some audio. Here, let's see. Oh no, that's an ad. Okay, here we go. Daily Caller White House correspondent Reagan Reese. It's a bunch of words. Okay. It's like what it said at the top. It's a transcript of an interview with Trump. She just wants to dispel all the rumors, all this craziness that she keeps seeing over the weekend that Donald Trump isn't well or potentially dead. So to dispel all that, she wanted to let you guys know that she had a full interview where he was vibrant and live and lively. So that's why there was a bunch of text of this long ass interview. Look, I could have scrolled for another 35 seconds. It was very long transcribed text of an interview with Trump. Crazy. It's like it didn't dispel it yet. Now, I would pause for a second. I'm not saying dude's dead. I'm just saying this is curious stuff. Every time someone questioned and the radical, disturbing, lunatic left said something crazy about Donald Trump potentially being sick or dead, they released something to try and dispel all those rumors. The problem is every time they tried to dispel those rumors from the radical, ridiculous left, it didn't dispel the rumors. So even though people are on the fence about it, like we'll just wait and see, every time they did something, it made it a little bit more curious. Okay. Here's a little bit more of a known outlet. I mean, maybe more trusted. Mac Allen of Axios. This was on also Saturday. For everyone who's texting me, as always, Barack Ravid has the goods and says a U.S. official tells me Trump is okay. Put this in bold. Trump is okay. We'll play golf this morning. Excellent, right? Trump is fine. That was on Saturday, August 30th. He went to play golf. And then so in golfing, again, Trump didn't go on camera. He just posted this from his Truth Social. This is August 31st. Wearing the outfit with the white hat and everything as they're walking out, I think as you saw in that last tweet. He's playing golf with John Gruden, former NFL coach. Great playing golf with John Gruden, a really nice guy and a true character. That settles it, everybody. He's totally fine. He was hanging out with John Gruden on August 31st, according to that timestamp on that Truth Social post. John Gruden, you say? Remember John Gruden's wearing a purple polo shirt and navy blue shorts? Here's John Gruden's post playing golf. It says, "Have a great Saturday." John Gruden, look, I'm scrolling down a little bit. Look, it's the same outfit. And it's from, if you see at the bottom there, August 23rd, 2025. Like I said, bro, I wasn't even necessarily buying into all this stuff, but something's weird. The guy loves to talk. He loves to prove people wrong. He just let people know what's going on. This is some long ruse to get people to continue to follow this breadcrumb of nonsense and them trying to prove over and over and over again that dude is okay. And every time they try to prove that this guy is okay, it made more people go, I don't think he's okay. There was more. Here, go to this one. I'm not done. This guy named John Fredericks. He's like a MAGA radio show host. He was hanging out with Donald Trump. Check this out. This is another picture. He says, "Thank you, Mr. President, for making Washington, D.C. the safest city in America. Crime is now virtually zero. Make America safe again." And hearts, some D.C. He brought up D.C. for some reason when they're hanging out golfing. Okay, so check it out. There he is. He's standing with Trump. He's wearing the white USA hat and the white polo. Thumbs up. Good times. He wants to make sure you guys know this. Everything is fine. Look, he was right there. That was on September 1st. That was Labor Day, Monday. So internet sleuths, because people had their, suspicions up already, they started analyzing the picture. Right now at this point, this is just fun for me. I don't have much of an opinion, but this was just fun. So I'm sorry. Let me get to John Frederick's explanation, because people saw that picture and went, whatever, bro. And he said this photo was taken August 31st, yesterday. So he posted it on Labor Day, said it's from Sunday. He says, by my wife Ann on her phone at approximately 4 p.m. after golf and lunch at Trump National Golf Club in Sterling, Virginia. Secret Service allowed the photo to be taken at POTUS's direction. Thanks, and have a great day. So first he was talking about the crime being down in D.C., and I'm glad you have militarized another city in America. Then he had to explain, this was taken because I kind of want to let you guys know it was taken on Sunday so you guys can stop speculating about whether or not he's ill or dead. So like I was saying, folks start looking a lot more closely at that picture. Again, this is fun. So they look closely at the picture, and if you just kind of, pay attention, someone asked on this one post, what happened to the picture behind the person standing on the stairs? It's not showing up in the mirror. Is this some kind of witchery? So as you can see, the mirror to the left of Donald Trump from our view. There's that, I guess it's a woman standing there. She has a little bun in the back of her head and standing on the stairs, waiting for Trump or someone to come up the stairs, and look behind her. There's nothing on the wall, but look at the actual picture. We're not in the mirror on the right side of the frame. There's a huge rectangular photo and framed picture hanging on the wall behind her. It's nowhere to be seen in the mirror. Is it a Photoshop? Is it AI? Was John Fredericks on some kind of cover up to make sure that people don't know what's really happening with the president of the United States? What are they trying to do? We noticed that they continue to post pictures and post proof of life, and none of this is making any sense. I don't know, bro. What I do know is that there's now an announcement coming out for today, Tuesday, September 2nd. It's all going to be quilled. We're back to a normal work week. Congress is back in session after taking a month off of doing nothing. They're back in session. It's time to get on to work on some on a debt ceiling limits and funding the country and all the stuff that Congress always has to do up to the last second. And the White House has posted the new schedule, which again was scrapped the whole time that Donald Trump wasn't seen or heard from. They're back on schedule. And the White House's schedule for today is at 2 p.m. The president makes an announcement. See that at the bottom there? 2 o'clock. We'll see if the announcement. That's going to be at 2 o'clock Eastern. So 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. in the central part of the country. We'll just wait and see. Is it another transcribed statement? Is it another Truth Social post? Or is he going to stand in front of cameras? Is he going to speak from a podium? Is he going to take questions from a bunch of people so he can scream at them again and tell them they're fake news? We'll see. I'm willing to anticipate that will happen. We'll see. But he did take several days off, and it made many people wonder, what the hell is going on, bro? What's going on? Let me look for a second to see if you guys figured out what's going on. Am I like again? I have no conclusions. I'm just presenting to you guys what happened over the weekend because I tried to avoid this story because I didn't feel like having my thoughts and my weekend ruined because I was working on a car instead. But I'm just saying, why do they keep posting stuff that didn't make any sense? Just show your face, bro. We did see a couple images of his face, and he looked a little, tired and droopy and a little bit out of pocket. But again, every one of those pictures, someone at some point said, "This looks like it's from a different time." I don't know. Just a little bit of conspiracy theory to start your Tuesday, since we missed Monday, which was, of course, the best damn day of the week. Let's move on to some news that's happening now. That's going to be going on starting today. Let's go ahead and jump right into this since the speculation segment of the show is over. Here's the real news, because this is what people were worried that too many people are being distracted from as we're concerned about whether or not Donald Trump is dead or sick, that they're actually doing some other devastating things. But you know what? Wknd is on the case. We haven't forgotten about it.
We've got 212 Democrats and 12 Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. Look, this is not about Donald Trump, and it's not partisan. This is about justice for the victims of rich and powerful men who abused underage girls. And 10 of these victims are speaking out for the first time at a press conference that Massey and I are organizing on the steps of the Capitol on September 3rd. In this country, people want transparency. They want accountability. I'm confident we're going to get the 218 votes for the discharge petition.
And talk about that news conference, because you're kind of touting it that it's going to be, if not explosive, there's going to be some news made.
Well, these victims haven't spoken for decades. When Epstein got that lenient plea deal, no one talked to the victims or their lawyers. No one talked to the victims or their lawyers when Maxwell was sentenced. No one has ever heard, what do they want? And my belief is when the American people actually hear the victims for the first time, they are going to sympathize. Their hearts are going to be broken. And all the victims are saying is for closure, we need the Epstein files released. That there are a lot of other rich, powerful men, politicians, business leaders who have committed abuse and who have not been held accountable. That's what we're going to hear on September 3rd. And people are going to be outraged. And I don't see how after that the House can't vote for the release of these files.
Representative Wknd is back in session as Congress steps back in from its August recess, and he's got this petition ready to be signed, the thing that they were talking about before Mike Johnson ended the House and Congress session early so that they would have to stop talking about potentially releasing all the details of the Epstein files. The dance continues. Wknd is not playing. He's asking for that today. And as you heard, tomorrow, he's ready to have up to 10 old Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell victims speak about what it is they went through to force this vote so they can see more of this information. He's not done.
I'm very confident it will. I spoke to Congressman Massey. You had us both on a few weeks ago. We will have the petition live on September 2nd. We have all 212 Democrats committed to signing it. He has 12 Republicans. Only 6 of them have to sign it. What will be explosive is the September 3rd press conference that both of us are having with 10 Epstein victims, many who have never spoken out before. They're going to be on the steps of the Capitol. They will be telling their story, and they will be saying clearly to the American public that they want the release of the Epstein files for full closure on this matter. I'm very confident.
On the steps of the Capitol. It's going to be quite the spectacle. They're going to have, people are going to want to pay attention to this. Look, we just got the House back. No one's been talking to all these congressmen and senators for a solid month, a little bit longer, because as I pointed out, Mike Johnson said, let's get the hell out of town because this pressure is building on me having to do something to actually expose things in the Epstein files, which we know Donald Trump is all over, and he's been covering it up ever since he got back into office. So Thomas Massey is also who Wknd mentioned is going to be a part about this. Thomas Massey is a solid, I guess, still MAGA Republican. He was all on the side of Donald Trump. Donald Trump endorsed him right before they had their fight, and then they made up, and then they had another fight. And that's currently this fight that's happening. Before it was over budgets and the bill, because Thomas Massey was also against that too. So here's Thomas Massey, and he posted this again this morning to talk about what's going on today and tomorrow. This is important. He says, I'm in DC and will file the discharge petition today, September 2nd at approximately 2 p.m. Pay attention to that time, when Congress officially returns from the August recess. At that point, we can begin collecting the 218 signatures necessary to force a vote on binding legislation to release those damn Epstein files. I added the damn part, but Thomas Massey says they're releasing it at 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock Eastern is when they're going to have this discharge petition where a bunch of folks, Republicans and Democrats, can vote on whether or not they want to release these files. There's a reason that I pointed out that this is going to go on at 2 o'clock, because if you guys are watching this live, you guys just saw what I pointed out Donald Trump's schedule will be today after they hadn't seen him for a solid week. At 2 o'clock today, look at the bottom. At 2 o'clock today, September 2nd, the same day that Thomas Massey said at 2 o'clock today he's going to be having this discharge petition vote on the Epstein files, Donald Trump, the president, in all caps, makes an announcement. Weird. It's almost like they want to have some counter programming to make sure that whatever is said or whatever they bring up and whatever attention people have towards this vote on the discharge petition for the Epstein files, that enough people that have been waiting for a week to wonder what's going on with Donald Trump to be like, the president's going to make an announcement at 2 o'clock today. I don't think they want too many people to be paying attention to this discharge petition vote that Thomas Massey and Wknd are beginning to put forward that's going to put pressure on these guys to finally do something. I mean, to whatever degree. And honestly, I don't have all that much faith in whatever it is that they end up releasing with Epstein files if they get to that point, because we'll see how much more of the pushback and the delays happen. But they want to make sure that whatever you're seeing and thinking and noticing, that you'll be potentially paying attention to Trump. Why? I thought they wanted to get to the bottom of this whole thing. I want to show you guys where this has been happening, the lead up to this from Wknd and Thomas Massey. They've kind of been in partnership since the end of July, around that time that Mike Johnson made sure that he got rid of Congress early enough to not talk about this. They were on Meet the Press together. Let's hear more from Thomas Massey, because this guy's kind of been on a tirade and he's been a thorn in Mike Johnson's side. Watch.
Massey, let me delve into this with you. We will get to Johnson in just a moment. The Department of Justice says they will not be releasing further Epstein material in order to protect what they say is more than 1,000 victims, many of whom were underage. I want to read you a little bit of a DOJ memo, which writes, quote, sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither one of those ends. What is your response to the concern that releasing these files could ultimately hurt the victims, Congressman Massey?
Well, look, that's a straw man. Roe and I carefully crafted this legislation so that the victims' names will be redacted and that no child pornography will be released. So they're hiding behind that we're trying to get justice for the victims and transparency for America. And so, we've redacted things before. We don't want to hurt the victims. We're doing this for the victims. I think it's just something that they're hiding behind. And at the end of that statement, I heard something about conspiracy theories or something like that. Look, they're the ones, it's the president's own attorney general, FBI director, and children who said that, and vice president, who said that these files need to be released. We're just trying to hold their feet to the fire.
Well,
Thomas Massey is trying to make sure this is in the back end of July, when all this talk was about this same discharge petition that they were trying to get pushed through so that finally they could get to the bottom of this and expose potentially all of these culprits, all these folks who took part in these child sex traffickers that this administration was consistently talking about what it is they wanted to stop. But it went back even further than that. This was, again, all back in the back end of summer. And Thomas Massey then pointed out something else that he noticed. Back in April, he talked about this before, but in April, he talked to Pam Bondi when I don't think this was as big of a story as it turned into, but he was already getting suspicions about where this was going. Watch this part.
By the way, something else I wanted to say on this space is people, a lot of times in comments on my posts, they're like, well, why don't you just talk to Trump? Or why don't you just talk to Pam Bondi? You're assuming I haven't. Like, I do. I have. I asked Pam Bondi for these files in a private dinner in April. You know, because I'm on the Judiciary Committee, we went over to her office and had dinner, and it was very nice. And we were each kind of, we went around the table. Members of the Judiciary Committee could ask the Attorney General questions, and I told Jim Jordan, I said, listen, I don't want to embarrass anybody here, but I'm going to ask about the Epstein files. And he said, Massey, you do what you want. Ask whatever you want. And I got the runaround then in a private meeting. And I realized that, we were not going to get these things, or I suspected we weren't going to get these things based on her answer then.
There was a problem already. So I think he saw this coming when he got with Wknd to talk about this. They tried to do it before the summer was up. But again, the runaround kept happening. I just want to give you guys a recap. Since we're about to get some new information, I want to notice and point out all the culprits behind this, the people that were helping with this dodging happening. But Thomas Massey, again, was on the steps. I played this before. He's on the steps of the Capitol, again, at the back end of July, to try and get this whole thing pushed through. And what he had to continue to deal with was one Mike Johnson, his colleague, his partner in the Republican Party, his buddy, I guess is supposed to be. They're all supposed to try and get to the bottom of this. And this is where the rift got a little bit worse.
I was wondering, with the paralysis in the Rules Committee, it seems like they're not going to be meeting again today because of Epstein amendments. Have you chatted with anybody about that at this point?
Well, it wouldn't really matter. Their Epstein bill resolution is non-binding, so it's kind of fake. The resolution that I have co-sponsored with Wknd would actually bring up legislation that would be binding on the president.
Is your understanding that will ripen the day after lawmakers get back from August recess?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have 6 days and we needed 7 days for the discharge petition to ripen before we could bring this up before the August recess. So we'll have to bring it up after the August recess. But the good news is the Speaker has no interest in keeping us here one extra day.
I was wondering.
A little bit of sarcasm on the back end there, because the good news about Mike Johnson not wanting to keep folks around anymore, he's totally suspicious of this guy's intentions. And if you guys have been seeing this back and forth and how it's been going, the other thing is for some reason, there has to be a ripening of the discharge petition before they could actually have done anything. Mike Johnson knew that, so he got the hell out of town. Also, he wants to talk about protecting victims. We're talking about Mike Johnson wanting to protect victims. See if you can, see the forked tongue stick out of his face, and also the devious way he was trying to avoid this.
The Massey and the Kana discharge petition does not have adequate protections. For example, in the way that it was drafted, they cite that they don't want child abuse, sex abuse information uncovered, but they cite the wrong provision of the federal code, and so it makes it unworkable. It requires the DOJ to release grand jury testimony. They are prohibited by law from doing so. So it is not the right approach. There is another approach out there. The House Republicans on the Rules Committee have a resolution that is well drafted, that is thoughtfully drafted by lawyers that would make this workable. That's the approach. We have to protect the innocent. We'll do it at all costs.
They do say that they want victims' names redacted, though, just to be clear. Let me move on to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes, but their language doesn't adequately produce that. Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me move.
If Mike Johnson cared about the language in the draft discharge petition being correct enough to allow them to release all these files and still protect the names of the victims, why wasn't he a part of trying to make sure that happened? I mean, Thomas Massey also pointed out that that was a lie, but we can go through whatever kinds, whoever's telling the truth on that. But if you're a part of it, if you said over and over and over again, I want to get to the bottom of this whole thing, I just want to work with the president and the FBI and the DOJ, who are not working with anybody to try and uncover these Epstein files. Wouldn't you be a part of changing that language and making sure you can expedite it as quickly as possible? Look how quickly they went through that thousands and thousands of page bill that they used to destroy more American people's lives, take away our health care, and dismantle more of the social safety net features, and also steal things more from us to give more money to richest folks. Mike Johnson was rolling on that. He made sure that the deadline of July 4th that his president, Donald Trump, gave him, he was on that deadline. There's something about this deadline. There's something about this work. There's something about this discharge petition that he is slow moving, dragging his feet on, wants to say there's wrong things wrong with it. I don't know why they're doing this. He was really moving slowly on this. And I think he was hoping for the entire month of August, as Donald Trump was spinning like a Tasmanian devil all over the place, that no one would continue to think about it. That maybe Wknd and Thomas Massie would be like, oh, I guess the August recess is over. Forgot what that whole thing was. It's really not the case. But I just want to point out, when Mike Johnson wants to move, Mike Johnson moves. And in this last video, that was one of my favorite ones of him trying to dodge and go through all this, Mike Johnson had issues with Thomas Massie's approach to this, his coordination with Wknd, because, if you work with a Democrat as a Republican, oh my God, you're trying to destroy the country. But listen to the way he talks about Thomas Massie in this last clip. Again, this was from right before they left town, but he wanted nothing to do with Thomas Massie. Matter of fact, he damn near said, this guy's trying to destroy us. Watch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to follow up on that, I know before when you were asked whether or not you would back Mr. Massie for re-election, you didn't give a direct answer. He has some harsh things to say about your leadership yesterday related to the Epstein files. Have you made up your mind whether or not you would support him or back him against the primary judge of
So here's as the leader of my party, I lead the incumbent protection program. Okay. That's my job. I go all around the country. I travel endlessly and incessantly. I have to raise over $300 million to do that. And we want everybody to come back. And some people, I try to protect them from themselves. They kick and scream and bite their own colleagues. Some people seem to enjoy and trying to inflict political pain on their own teammates. I'm not going to address anybody individually, but I'll tell you that some here are much more frustrated than others. There's a small, tiny handful, but one in particular who's given me lots of consternation. I don't understand. I don't understand Thomas Massie's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. Thomas Massie could have brought his discharge petition anytime over the last 4.5 years. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, he could have done that at any time. And now he's clamoring as if there's some sort of timeline on it. It's interesting to me that he chose the election of President Trump to bring this, to team up with the Democrats and bring this discharge petition. So do I have some concern about that? I do. But in me and my way, I try to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, never speak evil of another Republican. My gosh, it's hard to do sometimes around here. I also try to follow the scripture. It says, bless those who persecute you. So let me just say about Thomas Massie, could you just accept my Southern bless his heart? Okay. I don't know what else to say about it. We're for maximum transparency. We're engaging in that right now. And we don't need political games.
The question was whether or not Mike Johnson supports Thomas Massie in his reelection. And all he could then talk about was, I'm in the incumbent protection program, and I guess I have to try and protect this guy, but he's so frustrating. He keeps avoiding playing for the team. I think he thinks he's being like cute or something, or somehow jovial and joking, and people will like relate to him. Yo, if you're the Speaker of the House and you're supposed to represent the American people, and the question is about releasing of the Epstein files that have to do with child sex traffickers, a big fragment of what your president ran on exposing, and your answer is these guys are so frustrating, they like to team up with Democrats and not play for this team against the American people and child sex trafficking victims. He openly said he's teaming up against me and my team who are trying to avoid this stuff coming out. That's what he said. That was before they went off for the August recess, and a few of them got screamed at and talked down at their town hall events because nobody trusts these guys anymore. So his thought was, let me talk how bad Thomas Massey is on this one. By the way, Thomas Massey's on them on damn near everything else. But I think finally on something that he saw, he's trying to get something exposed. But sleazy, weaselly, snake Mike Johnson, used car salesman asshole, all he could think about was he's not playing for the right team because Donald Trump doesn't want that out there. Today, the discharge position is going on at the same time that Donald Trump is going to be speaking. We'll see what happens there. But tomorrow, make sure we pay attention. I think it's also happening at around 2 o'clock tomorrow as well. They're going to be on the steps of the Capitol with these victims to potentially, I guess, tell their stories. I'm not sure what all is going to be happening there. But Wknd was talking about how big of a disaster it may be for the folks who want to continue to cover this up. We'll see what happens. But I'll be talking about that tomorrow too, even though, damn it, the press conference isn't until after. I might do a live on the press conference, honestly. I got one last story, but I want to address a couple of things that you guys were saying in here. I did see a couple things. I get a couple seconds to dive in and see what you guys are saying. I did want to address and point out and say to Fubar Total, yes, I got the Blackhawks hat on. I got the Blackhawks hat on now. Thank you. I appreciate it. Good stuff. I finally remembered. Usually I only remember once you ask me about it. And also the car that I was working on was a 4th gen Corvette. It's a 1984. Has the crossfire fuel injection that everyone says they hate. But you know what? I like that crossfire fuel injected. And I figured out how the whole thing works. All you got to do is just pay attention to your car, bro. Just pay attention to your car. I don't need to switch over to the newfangled thing that jumped in. I don't need to switch over to all that stuff. I got the old school. It's all original. I got the cassette tape deck in there and everything, bro. I'm not switching. I'm not changing that whole thing up. And also, I did see this, and it pinged my attention. Raymond Smith pointed out that the Black Panthers are out in Philly, standing up to the police, protecting their community, and doing it lawfully, legally, and forcefully. I love it. I was going to do that story today, too. Maybe I'll see if some more developments happen. I might bring it up tomorrow. So let's, speaking of Chicago, let's move on to this. After another violent weekend in the city, which before even that happened, we saw this beginning to spark up. Donald Trump is targeting the next city that he wants to invade and occupy with his military and his federalization of the police. The mayor of that city, Brandon Johnson, said he's not having it. Let's go ahead and jump into it then. Why not? Come on.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago. No federal.
That's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson pushing back on this potential federalization and occupation of Donald Trump's military in Chicago. I mean, I was wondering which mayor or which governor, someone was going to get ahead of this and basically tell their own law enforcement, we're not going to participate in this. Apparently that's what that's what Brandon Johnson is doing. Let's see him talk about those things and how he's preparing for this potential invasion.
I'm signing an executive order today that will launch the Protecting Chicago Initiative. This is a project that builds on the months of preparation that we have done, that has led up to this very moment. This order affirms that the Chicago Police Department will not collaborate with military personnel on police patrols or civil immigration enforcement. We will not have our police officers who are working hard every single day to drive down crime, deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president. We do not want to see tanks in our streets. We do not want to see families ripped apart. We do not want grandmothers thrown into the back of unmarked vans. We don't want to see homeless Chicagoans harassed or disappeared by federal agents. And so this executive order makes it emphatically clear that this president is not going to come in and deputize our police department.
Not going to allow it to happen. This could be, I saw some other folks posting things like this. He signed that executive order ahead of time to make sure that there won't be any of this taking over of the Chicago Police Department to go against their citizens. We saw some LAPD participating in the ICE raids, or at least using themselves for crowd control and trying to corral folks that were out in the streets protesting these illegal occupations of these cities and these states. So he's getting ahead of it. And that's when those executive orders got signed. But he went into more details of the full nature of this administration and reasons why he's pushing back. And it made some people wonder and start thinking, man, these looks like preambles to civil war, which I don't know. I got to be honest. I feel like we haven't gotten to that kind of point yet. But people kind of can't wait for that. But still, here's more of Brandon.
We have received credible reports that we have days, not weeks, before our city sees some type of militarized activity by the federal government. It is unclear at this time what that will look like exactly. We may see militarized immigration enforcement. We may also see National Guard troops. We may even see active duty military and armed vehicles in our streets. We have not called for this. Our people have not asked for this, but nevertheless, we find ourselves having to respond to this. Let me be absolutely clear. Although we believe the reports we have received are highly credible, this is an erratic, impulsive administration, and it is not always possible to understand and know exactly how he will move. He could change his mind. He could reverse course. In fact, I encourage him to do that. Still, we take these threats seriously, and we find ourselves in a position where we must take immediate, drastic action to protect our people from federal overreach. I'm signing an executive order today that will launch the Protecting Chicago Initiative. This is a project that builds on the months of preparation that we have done that has led up to this very moment. Protecting Chicago will ensure that every Chicagoan knows their rights, that every single family is prepared, and every part of city government is directed to protect the people of Chicago from federal action. This sweeping executive order directs our Department of Law to pursue any and every legal mechanism to hold this administration accountable for violating the rights of Chicagoans.
So not only the push to make sure that the Chicago police don't join in on these type of things, which we'll see how that goes. He also pointed out how they're giving citizens information, because as we saw in DC, right after they send in all these ICE agents and then send in National Guard eventually, and then eventually put rifles and guns and sidearms in their hands. All this stuff happened. And we saw people roving through neighborhoods, harassing people on their porches. And many people were like, yo, I can't sit on my porch anymore. So people need education on what is it they can do just personally, because obviously you can't have some kind of authority always around to tell you and tell these folks that's part of the intimidation, that you don't have to listen to everything that they're telling you. You are an American citizen. I also remember when they said they were going to go after illegal aliens, violent criminal aliens, but instead they're going after American citizens, and particularly in Black and brown neighborhoods, because that's who criminals are, according to these Nazis, Black and brown folks. And so obviously Chicago's the next one, because first of all, they have a Black mayor. That's the big problem. But so Tom Homan got a chance to respond to this, and you won't be surprised to see that all he's doing is bulldozing and talking about how there's crime, because that's what white supremacists have always said about anybody that they're going to attack.
When you get pushback as you head into Chicago from people like Mayor Johnson, what's your message to the mayor?
Get out of the way, because we're going to do it. Look, right after the election, right, when President Trump took the White House, the first operation that I was involved with was Chicago. Brandon Johnson says I wasn't welcome in Chicago. Well, the very next day I was in Chicago along with the task force. President Trump's committed to making Chicago great again, making it safe again, since they failed to do so.
Do you guys remember when Democratic presidents came into office and said, I don't care what any of these governors or these mayors say of these red cities and states. I'm coming and I'm cleaning this up. We're going to change that problem with their education system. We're going to change the problem with their crumbling infrastructure. We're going to change the problems with you stealing money from citizens and giving them nothing in return. We're going to stop all this madness, because I think it's about time we modernize this country. You guys are living in the past. You guys are worshiping Confederate statues, these losers of previous wars in our country. I'm going to clean this up. And when these mayors and when these governors push back, I'm going to steamroll anyway. Do you guys remember that? You guys remember when Democrats always said that? Because I don't remember it. But we've begun to normalize guys like Tom Homan with marbles all in his mouth to talk about how he's going to go into every city he wants, no matter what the leadership there says, because Donald Trump wants him to. I remember that used to be considered fascism and authoritarian figures. I remember when they used to say that was going to happen because Democrats are authoritarians. So if he thinks running through cities and then militarizing them and pointing guns in people's faces is actually stopping crime, or if it's just scaring citizens into not leaving their houses anymore, he's mistaken. But as similarly to what the Baltimore mayor said, to what I think the DC mayor said at one point, and specifically definitely what Mayor Johnson has been saying here, those things don't lessen crime. Those cities have had significant decreases in crime because they're doing initiatives and they're investing in these communities as we invest in genocides in Gaza, and as we also invest in Donald Trump's crypto, and also invest in all these other billionaires who bought off Donald Trump to give away all of our money to. That's the thing they're investing in. They're not investing in communities, because once that happens, we see differences.
We've said fund our education system, invest in affordable housing, ensure that we are collaborating to get guns off the streets of Chicago. We're stopping guns being trafficked in from states that voted for him. And so now we do all of this hard work, this group assignment in the city of Chicago, and he wants to come at the end of the year before the assignment is due to try to put his name on the paper. He is reckless and out of control. He is the biggest threat to our democracy that we've experienced in the history of our country.
They act like this country hasn't been overrun by law enforcement and punitive results and damages to folks, death, when people go on death row, all these they claim are crime deterrents. If those things were crime deterrents, then we wouldn't be the nation with the most incarcerated people in the world by far. But there's a business behind incarcerating people. Janine Pirro said she's not interested in stopping crime. I said it 3 times last week. She's not interested in stopping crime. She's interested in punitive damages. So she wants the crime to happen so they can look like tough guys, because the origins of this country are based in punitive damages and having this hierarchy of some people better than others, and other folks are more likely in their genes to commit crimes. They play off of that same energy that sparked the beginnings of this country and the reasons why we used other humans to prop up other folks' profits and businesses. We do know that's the beginnings of this country. So when you invest in folks, in education and in our infrastructure and in our schools, in our communities and in housing and mental health, all these things that this administration has stripped and took out as soon as they got into office, you think they don't know what then happens? Do you think they don't think crime goes up more again then? All they have is the same line. Crime, 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 crime. It's what they want, so they can go after more punitive damages. Here's Homan again. Now, you won't be surprised to hear how he goes about this.
And is simply saying that you don't care about solving an actual problem. Listen here.
Care about solutions to gun violence or homelessness or immigration. They just don't want to see it. They don't want our communities to be safer for all of us. They just want to play on people's fears.
Your reaction, Tom?
It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like I just said, we took guns off the street that were fully automatic in the city of Chicago. That's a solution. We took child sexual predators people who committed sexual crimes against children off the streets of Chicago. That's the solution. Taking public safety threats off the streets of Chicago makes Chicago safer. If he had 1 ounce of integrity, he would thank President Trump for making Chicago safer every day. Every day, ICE is taking thousands of criminals off the street of this country, including Chicago. We have a big operation up there that's continuing, and it's about to get a lot bigger.
As you can see, all he's got is the same lines. We took child sex, human traffickers, drug dealers, gang members, murderers off the streets. Where's the verifiable facts behind that? And also in Washington, D.C., they said that they've eliminated all this crime. And actually, the stats behind that show that there was actually more arrests and actually more crime prevention happening a year ago in the same period of time. But still, they think the military is supposed to be in the streets and that'll stop these things. But at the same time, he cites all of these accomplishments and arrests that they've made. Again, in DC, there's what they call this black hole of information based off of these arrests and convictions that they're doing, because what they're doing is just running in and claiming that they're doing all this stuff. Who knows to what degree? Of course, they're arresting people. And if it's at a higher number, we've seen many of the 66-year-old women that are working on fruit stands or folks in the gardens doing their job, or folks outside of Home Depot that are looking for work. And they just claim they're all violent sex trafficking criminals, when for some reason, the violent sex trafficking criminal, the 34-time felon in the White House, still covering up the biggest sex child trafficking ring ever, is still trying to cover this whole thing up, and they haven't targeted him yet. It's almost like it has nothing to do with the crime. They just cite that so enough people can be afraid because they've seen crime happen and say it must just be in their genes. That's the operation of this country. That's where it's been. That's where they tapped back into. Cite that stuff that is unverifiable, because that's what this president does. He lies and claims up is down and that left is right all the time. We have no reason to believe the things that they're saying, because their objective is not to actually give us actual facts. Their objective is to scare enough people so they can start running people out of the country that they don't like, that they deem inferior individuals. We've seen them talk about it. But there's a problem that's happening with their approach here. It's happened in California with the National Guard that they sent there. And the concern might be it's finally coming to some kind of legal argument that they continue to lose.
In closing arguments yesterday, the government says the federal law that restricts the use of the military for domestic law enforcement does not apply in this case. Attorneys for California say the government is engaged in unprecedented conduct.
What the Justice Department was arguing was, for one, that there's no precedent here for this lawsuit. They also said that the law that was at the very center of this trial, Errol, doesn't apply because of the authority that President Trump used to bring in the National Guard. The other thing that they said is that this court doesn't have the ability or the authority to issue an injunction. And when it comes to the law that this trial was about, the Posse Comitatus law that we've talked about, it says the military cannot be used for domestic law enforcement. He said, if you don't think that applies, why did I hear all of this testimony from a major general who was the commanding general of the task force in Los Angeles about how they were aware of that law, how there were procedures and trainings to make sure that the troops were in compliance with that law? He said it certainly seems as though they were trying to comply with that law. And he also said to the lawyer, you know, if you don't think it applies, why don't you just advise your client not to follow it?
It seemed that they were losing that case in California that the governor then put forward to force them out of the state, and specifically in Los Angeles, because, you know, that was the test run before they try and invade every other city like they're trying to do with Chicago next. So in that decision, as we saw on CBS News talking about how it looked like they were getting spoken down in court, here's some of the results. Aaron Reichlin-Melnick, who's of the American Immigration Council, posted about what happened. He says Judge Breyer blocks the use of National Guard in Los Angeles. Defendants' orders, and contrary to Congress's explicit instruction, federal troops, they said they executed the laws. That's what the defendants said. But in short, defendants violated the Posse Comitatus Act. Here's a little bit more on the details of what is that went down with that. So they lost their case. They're apparently supposed to take the National Guard out, maybe, but it's just been held off for now. Here's a little bit more from Aaron Reichlin-Melnick. He says Judge Breyer cites the statements made by Trump and the Department of Defense Secretary Hegseth about deploying the National Guard around the country in blue cities as grounds for finding that it's necessary to issue an injunction blocking the Trump administration from continuing to violate the law. So their wild push to say we're going to send National Guard troops everywhere to stop crime, which they're not even meant to do according to the actual law that they continue to not follow, them citing that they're sending National Guard all over the place to do that is the reasons why this judge saw holes in their argument, because that's, you know, oddly against the law. Last part's here. Judge Breyer's injunction, if it ever goes into effect, would bar Trump from using the National Guard and any military troops in California to engage in, quote, security patrols, traffic control, crowd control, riot control, and other similar tasks. Because we already know in DC, they're using the National Guard to clean up parks, pick up rappers, and I guess plant some flowers and grass that he said he knows so much more about than anybody else in the world, because that's what he likes to use military for, just to have a general presence, because, you know, he's this authoritarian fascist in the White House. Last part of this decision. This only impacts California for now, and it's likely not going to go into effect given that the Supreme Court is ruling consistently in Donald Trump's favor. But it does set good precedent for other challenges going forward, given his findings about what constitutes a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. I'm sure I said that law wrong a couple of times, but you get the picture. Their arguments fly in the face of actual legal precedent, normal law, normal approach to using the National Guard, because the purpose is to intimidate and violate people's rights. That's the whole purpose of this guy. He's a violent, authoritarian fascist. I'm not sure how many times I got to tell you. Maybe you should just listen to what it is that he says. And they're what they think is legitimizing their moves is to say wild things like what Tom Homan says. So I'm gonna leave you guys with this. I know we're taking off for damage report, but I don't know if you guys saw Kristi Noem, who doesn't know what she's doing, on Face the Nation this Sunday. And she was talking about what is it they're doing in Los Angeles, and just listen to the comical way that they go about this. Anybody that's from LA or lives in LA now, as I did, you would know how comical this mention is in the face of reality and legal precedent. This is what their arguments usually consist of.
But we will continue to go after the worst of the worst across the country, like President Trump has told us to do, focusing on those that are perpetuating murder and rape and trafficking of drugs and humans across our country, knowing that every single citizen deserves to be safe.
Part of what distinguished the Los Angeles operations, however, is that National Guard troops were there, in essence, protecting or backing up those federal agents as they conducted operations. Is that what we should expect to see in Chicago?
You know, that always is a prerogative of President Trump and his decision. I won't speak to the specifics of the operations that are planned in other cities, but I do know that LA wouldn't be standing today if President Trump hadn't taken action. Then that city would have burned down if left to the devices of the mayor and the governor of that state. And so the citizens who live there, the small business owners in downtown LA, they're thankful that President Trump came in with federal law enforcement officers and helped support keeping those streets open, keep their homes and businesses from burning down, and made sure the law and order was restored.
I just want to clarify one thing you said there. You said LA wouldn't be standing if not for these federal deployments?
So many of those homes and businesses that were in downtown LA and in those areas were dealing with riots and violence, and coming in and bringing those federal law enforcement officers in was incredibly important to keeping peace. And so we are grateful that President Trump was willing to send resources and people in order to enforce the law. And Ed, since then, we have arrested 5,000 dangerous illegal criminals out of LA and removed them from our country and had them face justice for their crimes.
There's a reason that judges keep ruling against these clowns. That idiot is talking about how LA would not be standing right now. The any kind of conflict that happened in LA was because he sent in agents who started terrorizing people of the city. The reasons why people rose up and were marching in the streets because he sent in folks with violence hell-bent on their minds and had masks over their faces and drove up in unmarked cars and started attacking old ladies and snatching children from their mothers, and then going to immigration hearings that they say you're supposed to do it the right way, as Republicans always talk about in this country. As people did it the right way, they went and started taking people away from their legal immigration hearings. But in order to try and scare enough people, because scary Los Angeles is to say we've taken all these violent criminals off the streets and the place wouldn't even be standing today, bro. You know what? The small business owners, they thank us every day that you saved our city, because LA apparently didn't exist for all these years with all these folks in that city until Donald Trump came along and invaded it and tried to occupy it with the National Guard, you know, because that's how things work. It's cartoonish stuff. You tell these stories to 5-year-olds and they'd be like, this is weird. This isn't a very good story. I feel like you're lying. That's the stories that they tell. For those of you guys that hung around, thank you very much. The two folks, one more person that mentioned something to me that I wanted to bring up. You don't like my music. If you're still here, that the Corvette is not a Stingray. It's a 1984. It's that 4th gen right after the Stingray era of the early 80s, which I want a 1980 Vet as well too. That's one of the ones I like. But no, it's maybe I'll post a couple pictures if you guys follow me over on Instagram. Come say hey, let me know what's happening. If you guys missed anything that was going on, or if you had to jump off and didn't get much of this of the back end of these stories, I'm posting these back up on the page before the end of the day. Up comes another hour from now before Donald Trump has his announcement that's supposed to also conflict with Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna's Epstein filed a request. There's lots happening. We'll be talking about it tomorrow. So we'll see you guys later. Enjoy TDR. Go in there and tell them we had tons of fun here. I'll catch you guys on a Wednesday.